Hello and welcome back to the Reapers. So today we're looking at the Su-25T. So this is the plane that you get free when you download DCS World. It's what you get everyone gets started in, and therefore it's important that we cover it. So today we're looking at navigation. So this aircraft is what we call a Flaming Cliffs 3 aircraft. Therefore its interactivity is relatively simple. You control it with keys on the keyboard rather than actually pressing the switches down here to work systems and typing in codes and stuff like that. By the way, to get this cursor up that I'm pointing around, left Alt and C turns it on and off. Okay, but all the dials and gauges, everything still works, and we're going to use them to do our navigation. So what type of navigation do we have? There are various types of navigations that aircraft use: ADF systems, TACAN systems, INS systems, satellite systems. This one uses INS, Inertial Navigation System. This is a system that is basically all within the aeroplane. It's a box, it's in the aeroplane. It doesn't reach out and talk to other stations or anything like that. It's all contained within. And it works on the idea of waypoints. These waypoints are pre-programmed into the INS system when the aircraft is on the ground. That's simulated in DCS by using the mission editor and adding a certain amount of waypoints. So that's what I've done. So we're going to look on F10 and look at today's mission. There we are. Let's click on us. You can see we've got waypoint 0, waypoint 1, waypoint 2, waypoint 3. We're going to navigate our way between those waypoints, which will take about 10 minutes or so. At that point, we're going to use the next type of navigation, which is ILS. ILS is different to INS. It's a system on the aircraft that reaches out and communicates with a system on the runway at Mozdok, where we're going to be landing. There is a ILS system on the runway or near the runway at Mozdok, and it's going to fire a beam of radiation out in this direction here. Let me get my ruler, like that. Longitude and latitude, but also in elevation as well. So it's a three-dimensional beam, if you like, and it's simulating the glide slope, the desired glide slope for an approach onto that runway, which is runway, it's going to be 26 by the looks of it. Okay, and when it comes to the ILS, the aircraft will handshake with the ILS station, or will actually just receive information from the ILS station to guide us, give us indicators to guide us down the path. So before we get to ILS, we're going to do the INS part, which is, like I said, dealing with the waypoints. Now, these waypoints are three-dimensional, so they have longitude, they have latitude, and they also have altitude. So if you like, they're a three-dimensional point in space. So we're going to navigate between 1, 2, and 3. At the correct altitude to, I like to think of them as gates. So there's a gate there, there's a gate there, there's a gate there, and you want to fly through them. Now the waypoints, as important as the waypoints are the course lines. So between 0 and 1 is a course line. It's that dotted line there. So not only do we want to fly to number 1, we want to stick on this course line. There may be several reasons for that, mission dependent, but it's important that we stick on that course line. So say we were out here, where my mouse cursor is, we could head towards waypoint 1 like that, but it wouldn't be any good to us because we really want to go along this course line, and that's part of the tutorial that we'll be dealing with. So that's back into the cockpit. Let's look at our instruments. First, we've got the HUD up here, which we'll go through in a second. Secondly, we've got the ADI, Artificial Horizon, we'll be dealing with shortly as well. And thirdly, we've got the HSI. These give us various informations for elevation and azimuth. Their functions overlap slightly, and they're designed so that if I were to, for instance, to lose my HUD for some reason, I could still navigate everything perfectly with my ADI and my HSI. And again, if the HSI broke, I could use my HUD. So they're kind of multiple redundancies in there. So first, let's look at the HUD. Now, before we do that, let's look at the keys we're going to be using. These are universal keys that everyone has. First of all, navigations mode, the 1 key. Second is previous waypoint, which you can bind a key to on the keyboard. And thirdly, next waypoint, again, what you can bind a key to. Right, so let's jump to the HUD quickly. So let's imagine that we were in air-to-ground mode because we've just been doing some bombing. So the first thing we want to do is press the 1 key to get to navigation mode. This is navigation mode. A quick look around the screen. There is our current speed, IAS kilometers per hour. There is our desired speed for the selected waypoint, 580 clicks. There is our current altitude. I forget whether it's radar or barometric. I'll figure that out in a second, but essentially that's in meters. Here is our desired altitude for the selected waypoint. Here's a heading strip. I'm not going to go through the whole HUD because I've done that in a separate video, just looking at the navigation information. Here is the type of navigation mode we've got selected. Currently it's ENR, on route. We'll go through that in a second. Here is the distance from ourselves to the current waypoint, and here is the currently selected waypoint. Here, this is what I call the steering circle. This is a guide that basically guides you towards the selected waypoint in terms of elevation and azimuth. So what we're going to be doing shortly is that's the heading of our aircraft there, where that cross is. We're going to be maneuvering, so that cross is essentially in the middle of that circle, or should I say the circle encompasses the cross. Then we will be heading towards the waypoint. So let's have a quick play with the nav mode. So I'm going to be pausing and unpausing throughout this. Just note it is quite hard to see the HUD against the white cloud, so I will be zooming in. It's complete whiteout today. I've done this so it forces me to use my instruments. I cannot use my eyes. When it comes to landing, we're going to be using these instruments only. And when it comes to the ILS system for landing, then that's only required when there's bad visibility. So when a situation like this, when I can't see the runway, if it was good visibility, you wouldn't need to use the ILS, and you could just do a visual landing. So let's look through the different navigation modes. So I'm going to keep pressing the 1 key. I'll press it there, and it's cycled to RTN, return mode. This return mode will basically vector you to an airbase, and it will not take you to the runway. It will instead take you to 10 miles off the approach. So this runway here, again, I think it's 26. So we'd be interested in this RTN. So the RTN would take us to where I'm drawing a line out to here, 10 miles off of the approach. That's where the return would take us to. And I can cycle through different runways with my next waypoint and previous waypoint, as we'll try now. You can see we're in return mode, and we're cycling through different airfields, and you can see a number down there symbolizing the different airfields. So that's airfield 17 we've got there, and that's the distance to that particular RTM point. I don't have a list of airports. There will be a list of airports to what that number corresponds with. Okay, let's press 1 again. Now it's taken it to landing mode. There's another word for ILS mode. This is going to take us, it's going to guide us not to the RTM point, but to the actual threshold of the runway. And again, we do the same thing. We can cycle through the different airports with next waypoint and previous waypoint. You can see that one I've selected is 200 kilometers away. Back to there. Okay, we'll go through that in a bit more detail when it comes to the ILS. Let's press 1 again. So that is just basic navigation mode with no actual mode selected. You can see there's no mode there selected. And let's press it once more. And on route mode. So on route mode is basically waypoint navigation. So RTN took us to the approach point of a base. Landing took us to the actual threshold of the runway. En route mode takes us between waypoints. And remember, we've got our waypoints as set up here. Right, so that's the HUD covered for now. We'll go through a bit more detail when we're actually doing it. Now let's look at our ADI. ADI is here. This is our artificial horizon. You can see there is our plane. My wings are slightly turned to the right. There's the center of my plane there, that dot there. And what we're interested in is these two lines, the yellow lines, that line there and that line there. Now, when we come to use ILS, these would be called the localizer, that one there, and the glide slope here. They're not called that in on-route mode when we're using our INS navigation. They are just azimuth line and altitude line. So this one here will be guiding us towards the correct azimuth. Azimuth means left and right. To get to the selected waypoint. So let's just pretend that that line was over here. Then that would mean the waypoint, the azimuth to the waypoint is over here, and we need to turn right to get to it. And as we turn right, that line would then slowly center. When it's center, it means we're on the correct azimuth for the waypoint. So what we can tell by this is that we are heading towards the waypoint in terms of azimuth. This is the altitude line. What it's saying to us is that the altitude for where we want to be at the waypoint is above where we are at the moment. So what we'd have to do is increase our altitude. This line would then come down until it's centered, and then you will be at the correct altitude. When the lines are crossed in the center, you know that you're on the exact heading and altitude to the waypoint. So that's the ADI. Now we're going to look at the HSI. This is like a top-down view, if you like, only. So it's two-dimensional only. but it has got more information. So the selected waypoint, as selected in the HUD, the distance is shown there, 14.5 kilometers or 13.5, can't quite read that. That is the 12 o'clock position, so that is where our nose is pointing. The green line here, this end of the green line, is the heading for the waypoint. So the waypoint is ever so slightly off to our right. The waypoint, what have we got selected? Sorry, I forgot to say that is our distance to the waypoint, and that is the selected waypoint there. So we've currently got waypoint 0 selected. Okay, so waypoint 0, these are the ends that we're interested in. That fooled me. Waypoint 0 is actually behind us, as you can see there, because we've passed it. These are the ends that we're interested in. You can see it's actually behind us, and that is green one. That green line is that indicator to the heading to that waypoint 0. This white one here is slightly different. It's a course indicator. Okay, so just remember that the green line point gives us a heading to the selected waypoint. The course line tells us whether we're on this course, the dotted line, or not. So there are two different things it's telling us, and we will go into that further in a second. So the first thing we want to do is select the correct waypoint, which is going to be waypoint 1, that's our next waypoint, and navigate to it using the various modes. So unpause. So first waypoint, we're going to use the next waypoint button, press that, and you can see it's waypoint 1 selected now, and it's 17 kilometers away. And we're going to orientate ourselves. So for this waypoint, we're going to use the HUD solely to find the waypoint. So what we're going to do is pitch our aeroplane up and to the left when we want to get this circle to match on our heading indicator, our heading cross there. So up we go. All the time we can see the distance going down, 13.4, 13.3, and importantly the altitude. Now we've dropped, probably while I was yapping away, we've dropped a lot of altitude, and you can see we're way below the desired altitude of that. That's where the waypoint is, so that's why it's asking us to climb up so much. The speed of 600 clicks per hour ILS it wants is not so important at the moment, unless it had some particular importance, so I'm not going to worry about the speed. Off we go again. Have to put the power up because we're climbing, and now it wants us to descend, so it's just leveling us out just in time basically for the waypoint. I think it's got a little bit confused there. Oh, we'll follow the circle anyway, I'm sure it knows what it's doing. 9 kilometers now, and it wants us up again. Up we go, and down again. It can be a little fiddly until you've got it perfectly centered. It can be a little fiddly. A little bit more power on. 6 kilometers. We're way below the desired 1500 meters. I don't know why it's the circle's guiding us so low. It may be a bug, or I may have done something wrong, but let's stick with it for the time being. Right, 1 kilometer, and we're about to hit the waypoint. And 0 onto waypoint 2. You can see it automatically selected us onto waypoint 2 there. We're 20 kilometers away. We're still in on route mode, and we've got the information. Now, I'm not sure why. For some reason, it guided us a little lower than. Oh, I see. It's because this is a radar altimeter, right? It's because we've got lower to the ground. It switches to radar altimeter here, and this here is a barometric reading, so that's why that was differing from that. Nothing I can do about that. It's just because I set the waypoints quite low, so that's fine. Alright, so that was how to guide to the waypoint using the guiding circle. Next we're going to use the steam gauges to get to the next waypoint. So I'm going to press L to turn the lights on. And I'm going to deliberately, if we pause there, what I'm going to do is deliberately go off the course line so that you can see the course line start to deviate on our instruments. So we're going to purposefully just head in this direction for a little bit. Our altitude, we're going to be using this line here for our altitude. Remember that this number and this mode won't match because that's in radar mode, that's in barometric mode. Okay, let's see if we've come off the course line now. Yeah, we've come off the course line nicely. So what we're going to get is an indication not only to waypoint 2, but how to get back on that course and then over to waypoint 2, okay? So let's have a little look at what we've got. So we've got our ADI. Our ADI is telling us we're slightly above the altitude where we should be. We need to head down a bit, so we'll do that. It's also telling us that we need to head left here, which we will do. It's also telling us that currently the direction to the heading to the next waypoint, number 2, is there, so we'll need to drag that to the center. More importantly, that there has been some deviation. So this here is our course deviation, our course line, and you can see that it differs from the heading line to the waypoint. If it's differing like that, that means that we're off the course line. So what we're going to want to do is get those two lines, those 2 pointers to marry up. As well as that, we want them at the 12 o'clock position. Okay, so that can take a little doing. So let's start doing it. We'll also be glancing up at the HUD just for our speed and altitude, which is going to be useful. So we want to head down a bit. Okay, altitude's good on the ADI now. Let's level out. Okay, and we're heading left. Now we're going to have to head quite violently left because to drag our course line on our HSI across, so we're going to purposefully head too far left now. And what we're going to do is try and marry up on the HSI the course line, which is the white line, with the green line, which is the heading line. And I hope I've got enough distance to my waypoint to do this. We'll just have to see how it goes. Now we're a little bit high on the ADI, so we're going to come down in altitude a little bit. And you can start to see on the HSI now our two lines are marrying up. You can see those two are about to marry up. And that means that we're getting back closer to this course line. And we haven't got long to get this corrected, so what we're going to have to do is correct fairly quickly to waypoint 2. So I'm going to start turning right now. I'm going to drag both those HSI needles to the 12 o'clock position. I'm going to turn that violently now. And perfect. You can see now, I'm going to just pause there, we've managed to get the course line, which is the white line, perfectly in line with the heading line, which is the green one, all at the 12 o'clock position. So I'm on the course line, I'm on the right heading, everything's good. Concentrating on that so much that I've messed up this. So what I'm going to need to do now is increase my level out and increase my altitude quite substantially. And you can see that ADI altitude line coming down, and altitude is now bang on. Level out there. Okay, that is ascended. Ever so slightly, we've got to go ever so slightly to the left. The ADI course guidance line there wants us left. And I've lost altitude again. This can be very finicky, especially when... let's try and get this right. And I've gone too far to the left now. Whoops. And pow. The reason it's the line started going so funny there was because I was approaching the waypoint, and as soon as I get to the waypoint, the needles start spinning around basically and going out of control. Right, so we've done waypoint. Where are we now? Waypoint 2. We've got 2, and you can see that we directed ourselves bang onto it. So that shows you how these instruments are just as, if not more, accurate than the HUD instruments here. In fact, they probably are more accurate. Next, we're going to guide ourselves to waypoint 3. We'll do for this one a mixture of HUD and a mixture of steam gauges here to get ourselves on course, etc. So we're going to do a sharp bang left. We're going to turn left. We use our various instruments. Mainly I'm using my HSI here, looking for my green needle. I don't want my course line to deviate too much off course, so I'm going to go ever so slightly left of the green needle to drag that course line back in line. Now altitude, I'm going to look at the ADI. Now if you look at the altitude on the ADI, you can see that guideline is way down there. So we're going to need to essentially go down to chase that. That's because it wants us really low. It's essentially setting us up for landing. Unpause there. So we're keeping an eye on our HSI there to get our two lines in line. We're also going to have to dive into the soup now, because that's where it wants to take us. And here's where things start getting a little bit harder. Okay, our course line and our heading line are now married up, so we're going to turn right. HSI, get everything lined up on the 12. I'm losing my bearings ever so slightly. There, we're lined up on the 12. Now, the only thing we're good in terms of azimuth, we now need to head down to get our altitude marker right way down. We've got 4 kilometers to hit this marker. And marker hit. Little bit of violent there, but it's okay. And stop there. So we've got everything pretty good. We've got our course line, our heading line, all at the 12 o'clock. We've got these two. They're not crossed perfectly in the centre, but I'll correct that in a second. And our guidance circle there is showing the same as the ADI. We're 2 clicks away from waypoint 3. Now, waypoint 3 is the end of our waypoints, okay? Now, when it gets to waypoint 3, what we're going to see is that we'll automatically change us to landing mode, and navigation mode to landing mode. If you didn't want to do it automatically, you could change to landing mode yourself by the method I said earlier, by pressing the 1 key a few times. Okay, so let's go and see if it works. Sorry, I didn't mean landing mode. I mean it's going to put us to en route. Sorry. it's going to put us to return mode. That is the one that takes us not to the base, but 10 miles out from the approach. It's going to put us to return mode. So I'm going to use the HUD now. I'm going to use the steering circle. Try and get that right. Wants us down a bit. Up a little bit. And stop. So we've got to the end of the chain of waypoints. It now thinks, well, he must want to land, which is correct. So it's changed it to return mode for me. And all of the same stuff we've got to do. It wants us at that speed to get at the return point. It wants us at that altitude. It wants us at that distance from the return point. At this azimuth here and this azimuth here, all the same stuff as last time basically. I don't think we get a course line in this case because I don't think there is. You can see it hasn't given us a course line. The point will be somewhere roughly speaking around there, but it hasn't given us a dotted course line, so we'll just get azimuth information and altitude information, and we're going to go and start to follow that. Once we get there to that point there, or just before that, it will then put us on landing mode, which will take us for the ILS approach on to the landing. And this can all be a little bit fiddly, so the first thing I'm going to do is slow down. Now it's telling us to go massively high speed, 770. That's stupid. I'm not going to do that. It's too fast. The next thing to point out is that we are low. We are very low with that last waypoint, so we're going to start increasing our altitude. Again, our altitude here, pause, is radar. That is barometric, so that they're not going to match. Instead, we're going to use our other instruments to decide the correct altitude, and in fact that seems a little high to me, the altitude that is chosen, so I'll probably end up going a little bit lower. Right, as it happens, it does have a course line. You can see that course line there, but because we're doing an RTN, we don't really care about the course line, whether we're on the right course. We just care about the right heading at this point. Okay, distance is 17 miles. We're going to speed up again. I've got a little bit slow. So we're going to use our HSI heading, green heading point. We're not going to worry about the course line this time. Let's just get that heading on. Okay, we're going to increase a bit of altitude. I guess we better do what it says. I guess we better go up. Right, we're on the right heading. You can see our HSI and our ADI agree, and the circle agrees. We just need to go up now. A bit more power, because we are heading up, and we've reached the desired altitude. It's going to take us back down now. It's going to bounce a bit up and down, but essentially we're at the right altitude. We've got 10 clicks to go. All instruments bang on the money. Green line on HSI to the 12. Whoops, just came a little bit low there, and as well the ADI is showing us pretty much bang in the middle of that cross, which is delightful. Just leveling out. 6 clicks to go. 2 kilometers to go. You see our instruments centered. Everything's good. Whoa, and it's switched. Pause that there. We've hit the point there. My mark was in the wrong place. It was just a guess, but now it's going to take us the 10 miles on the ILS. So at this point, it's now using not the INS system, but the ILS system, a radio system that, like we said, talks to the runway and guides us along a particular slope. Things to notice, there's an extra circle now, so essentially all we need to know is that circle wants to be inside the big circle and the big circle wants to be on the heading cross. These instruments are going to work slightly different. The ADI is now showing slightly different in that this is now the localizer line, pretty similar to what it was before, to be honest, with the INS system. Essentially we want to keep it in the center again, and this here is the glide slope, so this again we want to keep in the center. If it's below, then we're too high, and vice versa, and this will take us all the way down to the threshold of the runway. Our HSI becomes pretty redundant at this point. It still does work. It shows us that they're heading where we want to get to the runway, but generally it's done with the ADI and the HUD at that point. In fact, we'll just use all three. Now we're going to need to make a sharp turn to the left, you can see, because we don't want to get too far, of course, because we haven't got long to do this. Now, I apologise, I haven't flown this plane in about a year. I need to quickly check what my controls are, because I can't remember. Flaps there. That's how I do my gear. And where's the air brake? And there's the air brake. Okay. All right, let's give this a go, shall we? So, I'm going to get on course. So, I've used my HSI in that case. I know I said I wasn't going to use my HSI, but I decided I was. I've got on course with my HSI. My localizer is good on my ADI there, but we're way above the glide slope. So what we want to do is start heading down, get these two circles married up, get that cross in the centre. Also, we're way too fast, so air brake on. And the glide slope's coming up. We're going to rise our nose now to meet it. A little bit high. And the plane doesn't appear to want to be slowing down. So what I'm doing is I'm basically using this. This is what I'm looking at the moment. This is what I'm interested in. And I don't want to drop too far below that glide slope, so they start heading up. And the idea of the game is to keep them crossed in the centre. If we can do that, we're all good. We've also got a distance we can see on the HSI and we can see on the HUD. Still below the glide slope, so that's it. That's pretty good. We're on the glide slope now. And we're off again. This is the first time doing this, so it's going to be a bit cruddy, but it's just to show you the idea. Distance is 4 clicks. We're coming way too fast. I don't know how to slow this plane down any further.
Gear down.
Try putting flaps down.
Gear down.
Right, I think my flaps are down. And we've got above the glide slope. Naughty, naughty. It's because I put my flaps on. We've suddenly risen. So let's start bringing that back down, shall we? Put some power on. 1 kilometre, so we're pretty damn close at this point. And oh my goodness, we've come out awfully violent there. Where's the runway? Where's the runway? There she is, right in front of us. So you see how the azimuth side of things work perfectly. I was just a bit crap on the glide slope. Now I think I've got my gear down. Like I said, I haven't flown this for a long time. Oh, God, it's a weird plane, isn't it? Touchdown. Bump the brakes. Now I don't know the max speed for the drag chute, so I'm going to have a guess at about 250 clicks. Press P for parachute. Oh my goodness. Et voila. So just to summarise what we've done then, we flew 3... That's annoying. We flew 3 waypoints using our inboard ILS station with waypoints programmed in the mission editor. We showed the ways that we could do them, follow them using the ADI, the HSI, and the HUD. Then at the end of those waypoints, we were directed to a return point 10 miles out from the approach of runway 26. We followed that in the same ways. Then we were directed to a landing mode, the ILS mode, communicated with the radar. It took us down on a glide slope. I managed to keep my azimuth pretty good through the whole way, but my not being used to the plane, how it reacts to the flaps and whatnot, I was a bit all over the place in regards to elevation, but we still kept it relatively okay, and we made it down through the fog. So a bit more practice there. We could keep on that glide slope all the way down and literally just not have any up and down deviation with a bit of practice, okay? So it shows all of that. The only other thing I think I'd like to quickly show is the different ways of selecting. So once we've got land ILS selected, it's currently selected to this airport. It'll always choose on its first option the nearest airport, airport 17, which is our particular airport. I can use the next waypoint and previous waypoint to cycle through the different waypoints. The different airfields. So airfield 19, airfield 20, airfield 21, and it doesn't tell you the name of the airfield. It just gives you its reference number and the distance to it. That's that. It's I'm in RTN mode at the moment, so it's choosing the 10 mile out position, but you get what I mean. And you can cycle through all of the airports in the particular map. We're in the Caucasus at the moment, like that. Okay, that's all the information I can think of giving. If there's anything that I've forgotten, let me know, but otherwise I hope that was useful, and I'll see you later.